Hey, I am here to share with you today this birth story of our fourth child, Gideon Michael. And I do this partly because I love hearing birth stories and also because I know that I tend to forget what happens when my kids are born, and it's something that I would like to remember and to be able to look back to someday and to be able to share with my kids or just for my own reference. Um, I knew going into this pregnancy that because I'm over 35, my OB would want to induce at the end of the pregnancy. He wouldn't let me go past 40 weeks. And I knew that I had the same thing with number three. And a part of me gets a little bummed because I think, my body needs to naturally do what my body should do. I'm all about trying to be as natural as I can when it comes to labor and delivery. But I also respect my OB, and I knew that he had a good reason for it. He said, after 40 weeks, baby doesn't really gain anything from being on the inside. So growth-wise, developmental-wise, nothing really happens. But the older you get, the more of a risk for like stillbirth or complications or, just any issues. And so he said, my view is we're going to get the baby out and as safe as possible. So I have to respect that and to go with that. And I love my OB, so it's kind of a trade-off for knowing that I love him. So when I went in and I asked about scheduling the induction, they had already picked out the date for me, which was kind of nice because I hate thinking about picking out the birth date for my child because it's a God-given date in my mind, and so it's just kind of weird to me to pick it out. So they'd already picked it out exactly 39 weeks because you can't induce before 39 weeks without a good reason. And so 1 week early was the plan. So I had gone in earlier, it was like 2 to 3 centimeters the week before, and was thinking, okay, this is hopeful that maybe my body will start doing something. But I also knew with my second, I walked around for like a month at 2 to 3 centimeters. So I knew it really wasn't an indication of a whole lot. So my hope was when I went into the induction that I would be 4 centimeters and also that I'd be able to deliver. I had to go in at 6 o'clock in the morning, that I'd be able to deliver by noon. Those were kind of my hopes. We got to the hospital the morning of induction and they checked me and they said, you're 4 centimeters, 70% effaced. And she's like, and I got some bloody show, so hopefully that means something is moving. So I got my 4 centimeters and was hopeful that my body would really kick it into gear and get going. The 2 nurses that were there getting me hooked up, they said our goal is by change of shift at 7 o'clock, we will have you all ready to go, get your IV in, get PIT started, and you'll be set. And they did. 1 IV stick, which was so nice. They were getting ready to put it in, and they started talking to my husband, who is a nurse and is very good at IVs. And they hadn't stuck me yet, and I had told him specifically, you do not mention you're a nurse until they get my IV in, because with number 3, it was 3 IV sticks, and I didn't think they were ever going to get an IV in me. And they knew he was a nurse, and he was just like, I'm going to just come over and stab you. And thankfully, this nurse got it in. It was a beautiful IV. I didn't feel it the whole time. She did awesome. So they got me hooked up. They got the pit hooked up, got that started by about 6:30. And for a little bit, I stayed in bed because I was like, I'm gonna stay here until I start really feeling contractions a little bit. I know it's not the best to be in bed during labor, but I wanted to kind of relax a little bit because I knew what was coming. So I was there for a little bit, and then they brought in a birthing ball for me. So I got up and got on the birthing ball after contractions started. The downfall of PIT is that they are fairly regular, and I could feel them, but they weren't that great. They kept asking me on the pain scale, where are these? And I'm like, maybe 4. They weren't that great. And so every half an hour they kept upping my PIT, and I was really trying to keep myself. There were a few things I was trying to do during labor this time. keep myself hydrated. So I felt like I was going to the bathroom like every 15 minutes, half an hour. And um, also, I'd heard that if like you relaxed your hands, that it made your whole body relax. So I really tried on during contractions relaxing my hands and also breathing and trying to like focus on pushing, letting the baby go down every contraction and forcing that downward motion through every contraction. Um, so that was kind of where my focus was through the contractions. And I had to kind of work through the contractions. They weren't painless, but they weren't too bad. And they told me, the doctor will either come in at breakfast or at lunch. Those are the two times he will come in. We're not sure. We can't tell you. He's definitely going to be here at breakfast or he'll definitely be here at lunch. I knew that he had told me, he's like, I think that once we get you hooked up, you're gonna progress. So my thinking was, knowing that I was his only induction that day, he was probably going to try to come in the morning, just knowing that he might have to be there before then anyways. And he did come in at breakfast. He didn't come in to see me. He just came in to tell the nurses I have to be in some procedures for 2 hours. So 1, don't up her pit. And we'll come back after my procedures at 10 o'clock and I'll break her water and we'll up her pit and get her going. So we sat there and I sat there. My contractions stayed about the same. I was on the birthing ball and the nurse came in at one point and was like, the baby's not liking this position. She called him a brat. She's like, your baby's being a brat. And like, my baby's not a brat. They're still on the inside. I'm already standing up for him. But they made me move and she suggested sitting in the rocking chair. She said with every contraction afterwards, the baby's heartbeat would kind of drop and then would come back up. And they said that's not something they like to see. She's like, it's not a huge concern. We'll change positions. And as long as changing positions is okay, we'll do a few things. It's not a huge deal. We just need to get the baby a little more comfortable. So thankfully, getting up on the rocking chair was enough that we were good to go. But I asked her, I'm like, my contractions, like they even slowed down, which I thought was kind of weird because with Pitt in the past, it has been textbook like every 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on at what point Pitt is. And I had like 9 minutes that I didn't have a contraction and I'm like, what's going on here? And they didn't hurt. Like I wasn't breathing at all through them. And I'm like, this is depressing. Like here I am trying to give birth and nothing's happening. And she's like, well, you're probably really not in active labor. And so everything is just kind of stalled out. And she's like, I can't up your pit because doctors and procedures and he can't get here. So you're just kind of stuck waiting. I'm like, well, that's encouraging. So I sat there for probably about a half an hour, kind of just in that like, not much happening phase. So about 10 o'clock, the doctor came in and he's like, we're going to break your water. We're going to get things moving. So, that gush of nastiness. Broke my water, sat in the bed for a little bit just to get all that grossness out. Got up and went to the bathroom and left a nice trail to the bathroom. And they said, we can't up your pit for a little bit. Hopefully the breaking of the water will get things moving. And in about a half an hour, once, they don't want to make too many changes at once. Once that gets going, we'll up your pit again. And hopefully we can get labor going again. So they did. They came in and they upped pit. And I started feeling some pressure. Not much. But with number 3, I had felt pressure and they told me, if you feel pressure all the time, let us know. I'm like, I'm feeling pressure during contractions, but not other times. And she was ready to come out. So with this one, I'm like, I'm feeling pressure, but I'm not feeling like I've hit that transition of like, I can't do this anymore. And they came in and checked. They're like, you're only at a 6. And I'm like, oh, that's exciting. And, but I'm like, I'm still feeling this pressure down there. And so a little bit later, another nurse came in. She's like, the other nurse is going to get lunch really quick so that she can be in here for the delivery. And she's like, I'm just going to stay in here with you for a little bit and check you and, see how things are going. And I'm starting to feel more pressure and the contractions. And she checked me and I was like, not much further. And I'm just like, ugh. And it wasn't too much after that, and I started reaching that point of transition of like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. And, contractions were just, oh, that painful, like I don't know if I can get through this. I don't know if I can get through this. And so my main nurse came back from eating and she checked me and she's like, you still have like this inner lip going on, but I think you're about there. Um, she's like, if you feel the need or the urge to push, let me know. Doc will come in as soon as you feel that, but he's not going to come in until you're ready to push. So I'm like, okay. So maybe a contraction later said, I think I can push. Um, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I've heard people say that this baby will just come out on their own, but I'm like, I just want this baby out. Like, let's go. And so they had set up everything earlier because they knew that it probably would be in the next hour or so, and so they had set up all their stuff that they needed for delivery. And so doctor came in and he's like, okay, whenever you're ready, you tell us and you can push. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. But, you forget what pushing's like because you're like, oh, at that point, you're like, just get this baby out of me. And so then they had to walk me through the first time of, like lean up and push. And so the nurse is counting to 10 and, okay, back at it, try again. And the first contraction, worked through it. And then by the time the second contraction came, I hit the ring of fire and I was like, oh my goodness, like that's just the worst because then you're like waiting for another contraction. And with my previous ones, they had me wait for a whole 2 minutes, which seems like forever when the ring of fire is like killing you. But my doctor looked at me and he's like, you just do what you need to do. It's like, if you need to push, push. If you want to wait, wait. And so I'm just like, I am pushing. I'm getting this baby out. So that right after that second contraction, kept pushing and out came the baby. My husband didn't believe this whole time that it was really going to be a boy. Ultrasound had told us that it would be, but we have 3 girls. He's like, this is not going to be a boy. So baby came out, was a boy. He was thoroughly surprised. I mean, we knew it was supposed to be, but he just didn't believe it. So they immediately put him on my chest, and it's just surreal that, oh, God has blessed us with baby number 4. Before 3, we didn't know that we'd ever be able to have 3 because we weren't sure God was going to allow that. So blessed with number 4 and just holding him there on my chest and just a blessing. They did delay the cord clamping and my husband got to cut the cord. And I asked the doctor, I said, can I see my placenta when it comes out? And he's like, sure. So just intrigued by, they say this dinner-sized plate-sized something coming out of you. And I love him. He took the time to show me like the sac that went around the baby and amazingly thin, really, how that sac is and flexible and, oh, just amazing how God works your body perfectly. Showing me the cord. He's like, everything looks perfect with the cord. It was placed a little odd. I don't know. Showed me the placenta and where it attached and just very interesting to see. I'm glad that I was able to see that. I'll never give birth again. So just one of those things that I wanted to see while I could. And Gideon came at 12:30. So I missed my mark by half an hour, which if we could have upped Pitt earlier, he would have been here by 12:30, 12 o'clock, I'm sure. But that's okay. Half an hour is not a big deal. I was glad it was that short. And I can't imagine these women that push out babies like an hour and a half because, oof, yeah, it would be nice, but we'll take the 6.5 hours that it was. So that is our story of Gideon and how he came to join our family. So Gideon was born at 12:29 p.m. I had to think if it was p.m. or a.m. and he weighed 7 pounds 13 ounces, so he fell right in the middle of my girls. They were two at about 7'6" and one at 8'6", and he was 20 inches long. And thankfully, I did not tear. That was one of the first things I asked. I said, "Doctor, how bad's my tear?" And he's like, "You didn't tear at all." So I'm not sure what the magic behind that was, but definitely has made the process of healing smoother because of that. I also started hemorrhaging a little bit afterwards. I hemorrhaged a decent amount with my first, so we knew it was a potential with anyone after that, and they were kind of on standby. So I got to finish out my bag of Pit. They gave me some medicine, and that helped stop the bleeding as well. And I got the beautiful uterine rubs, and when you're bleeding, they tend to rub every 15 minutes with quite force. And it's so painful. That's like one of the worst parts. But I really think that because they worked on getting that blood out, and also because I was on Pit for a while, I think that helped with healing as well. Plus the fact that my husband got 3 weeks off of work paid, which is awesome. I would fight for every employer to do that. It helped me be able to get naps and to heal and to rest, and really has helped with the whole process of healing. So such a blessing. That's the first time he has had that much time off, and so good. I also heard Venison for Dinner, she's a blogger and she's on Instagram. Find her followers. She's big on homesteading. But she had said that if she goes out somewhere, so if say she goes somewhere for 2 hours, she comes home and rests for 2 hours postpartum. And I was like, ooh, I really like that, because you tell your body you need a rest, but like that was like concrete of like, it's okay to be active, but plan to be unactive afterwards. And so just those things really helped with the process of healing after feeling well, not being a zombie. And yeah, I would highly recommend that for anybody postpartum, just to take it easy, to rest and let your body heal. You have a dinner plate size wound inside of your body that needs to heal. Allow it to heal. So yeah, we're very thankful for Gideon. We're thankful that God has allowed him to be in our home and allowed us to be his parents. And we are just hoping that we can bring him to Christ, to show him how God loves him, and allow him to grow and see where he goes. A man at the doctor said to me the other day, he asked what his name was. I said, "It's Gideon." He's like, "That's a Bible name, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I hope he goes far in life." And I know he meant well by that comment, and I do hope he goes far in life. But it's not about necessarily going far. It's about loving God and living for God. And so that would be more of my prayer. Not that he goes far, but that he serves God. And so we're just thankful for our little family, and thankful how God has blessed us. And I will see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye.